The rain was coming down hard that December evening, and Lisa could barely see through the windshield as their old car made strange noises. Her 7-year-old daughter Maya was sleeping in the back seat, wrapped in their only warm blanket. They had been driving for hours, looking for somewhere safe to spend the night. "Mom, I'm cold," Maya whispered, waking up as the car suddenly stopped with a loud clunking sound. Lisa tried turning the key again, but nothing happened. The engine was completely dead. She looked around and realized they were on a quiet street, lined with huge houses. Through the rain, she could see one mansion that looked like something from a fairy tale, with warm yellow lights glowing from every window. "It's okay, sweetie," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice calm. "We'll figure this out." But inside, she was panicking. They had been living in their car for 3 weeks now, ever since they got kicked out of their small apartment. Lisa had lost her job at the hospital when they had to cut staff, and the bills just kept piling up. She had exactly $12 left in her wallet. Maya started shivering more, and Lisa knew she had to do something. The temperature was dropping fast, and spending the night in a broken car could be dangerous for her little girl. "Stay here for just a minute," Lisa told Maya. "I'm going to ask for help." She ran through the rain to the big iron gates of the mansion. There was a small button next to the gate with a speaker. Lisa hesitated for a moment. What would she say? How could she explain their situation without sounding like she was lying? She pressed the button. "Hello?" came a man's voice through the speaker. Hi," Lisa said, water dripping from her hair. "I'm really sorry to bother you, but our car broke down right outside your house, and I have my daughter with me. She's only 7 and it's getting really cold. Could we maybe use your phone to call for help?" There was silence for a long moment. Lisa was about to walk away when the voice came back. "Are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance?" "No, we're not hurt. We just need somewhere warm for a few minutes while I figure out what to do," Lisa said honestly. Inside the mansion, David Chen was sitting in his home office, looking at the security camera screen. He had built his tech company from nothing and was now worth millions, but he rarely had visitors. His staff had gone home for the day and he was working late as usual. On the screen, he could see a young woman standing at his gate, soaking wet. Behind her, he noticed an old car with someone small in the back seat. Something about the situation didn't feel right to him. Not in a dangerous way, but in a way that made him want to help. David had grown up poor. He remembered what it felt like to be cold and hungry, to have nowhere to turn when things went wrong. His success had made him careful about trusting people, but it had never made him forget where he came from. "Give me a minute," he said into the intercom. He grabbed an umbrella and walked to the front door. When he opened it, he could see the woman more clearly. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with kind eyes that looked worried and tired. Her clothes were clean but worn, and she was trying hard to stay brave despite being obviously scared. "Thank you so much for answering," Lisa said quickly. "I know this is weird, and I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. Our car just died, and my daughter is getting really cold. I just need to use a phone to call for a tow truck or something." David looked past her at the car and could see a small face pressed against the window. The little girl was watching her mother with wide, trusting eyes. "When did you last eat?" David asked suddenly. Lisa was surprised by the question. "We had some crackers this afternoon," she said. "Come inside," David said, opening the gate with a remote control. "Both of you?" "Oh no, that's too much," Lisa protested. "We just need to make a phone call." "It's pouring rain, your car is broken, and your daughter is cold," David said firmly, but kindly. "Come inside. We'll figure out the car situation after you both warm up." Lisa hesitated. She had learned to be careful about accepting help from strangers, especially men, but something about this man seemed genuine, and Maya really was getting too cold. "Okay," she said finally, "but just for a few minutes." She ran back to the car to get Maya, who was excited about going into the big house. "Is that a castle, Mom?" Maya asked as they walked up the long driveway. "Something like that," Lisa smiled. David led them into a warm, beautiful living room with a fireplace that was already burning. The house was even more amazing inside than it looked from outside. There were books everywhere, comfortable furniture, and paintings on the walls. "Sit by the fire," David said. "I'll get you some dry clothes and something hot to drink." While he was gone, Maya whispered to her mother, "He seems nice, Mom." "Yes, he does," Lisa agreed, but she was still nervous. Rich people didn't usually help strangers like this. What if he wanted something in return? What if this was too good to be true? David came back with towels, a sweatshirt for Lisa, and a smaller sweatshirt for Maya. "The bathroom is right down that hall if you want to change," he said. "I'm making hot chocolate." When they came back to the living room, dry and warm, David had set out mugs of hot chocolate and a plate of sandwiches. Maya's eyes went wide when she saw the food. "Go ahead," David said gently. "Eat as much as you want." As they ate, David didn't ask a lot of questions. He seemed to understand that they were in a difficult situation and didn't want to make them feel embarrassed. Instead, he talked to Maya about the books on his shelves and showed her a puzzle he had been working on. Lisa watched her daughter smile and laugh for the first time in weeks. It broke her heart and filled it at the same time. Maya deserved so much better than sleeping in a car and eating crackers for dinner. "The tow truck won't be able to come until morning because of the storm," David said after making some phone calls. "You're welcome to stay here tonight. I have plenty of guest rooms." Lisa started to say no automatically, but then she looked at Maya, who had fallen asleep on the couch next to the warm fire. Her little girl looked peaceful for the first time in weeks. "I don't know how to thank you," Lisa said quietly. "You don't need to thank me," David replied. "Sometimes we all need help." What Lisa didn't know was that helping them was making David feel something he hadn't felt in years. His big house had always felt empty, even with all his success. But watching this little girl laugh and seeing her mother's grateful smile made the place feel like a real home for the first time. As David showed them to a guest room with a big, comfortable bed, he wondered who these people really were and what had brought them to his doorstep on this stormy night. Something told him this wasn't just a random breakdown. Something told him this meeting was going to change all their lives. Next morning, Lisa woke up in the most comfortable bed she had slept in for months. For a moment, she forgot where they were. Then she remembered the kind stranger who had taken them in, and she felt embarrassed all over again. Maya was still sleeping peacefully next to her. Her daughter's face looked relaxed and happy, without the worry lines that had been there for weeks. Lisa quietly got up and looked out the window at the beautiful garden behind the house. She could hear someone moving around downstairs and smelled something delicious cooking. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that they had barely eaten real food in days. "Mom?" Maya said sleepily. "Are we still in the nice man's house?" "Yes, sweetie. But we'll leave soon and let him get back to his normal life," Lisa said. When they went downstairs, they found David in a huge kitchen making pancakes and scrambling eggs. He was wearing jeans and a regular t-shirt instead of the expensive clothes from last night, and he looked more relaxed. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "I hope you both slept well." "We did. Thank you," Lisa said, feeling awkward. "You really didn't have to do all this." "I wanted to," David said simply. "Maya, do you like pancakes?" Maya nodded eagerly, and David put a plate in front of her with pancakes shaped like a butterfly. Maya giggled with delight. While they ate, David told them that the tow truck would be there soon. "But I have to be honest," he said. "The mechanic said it might be expensive to fix. The engine has some serious problems." Lisa's heart sank. She had been afraid of this. "How expensive?" she asked. "Maybe $1,500, possibly more," David said gently. Lisa felt like she might cry. She didn't have $1,500. She didn't even have $50. But she tried to stay calm in front of Maya. "I see," she said quietly. "Well, I'll figure something out." David watched her face and could see she was trying not to panic. He had suspected they were in serious financial trouble, but now he was sure of it. "What kind of work do you do?" he asked. "I'm a nurse," Lisa said. "Or I was." I lost my job a few months ago when the hospital had budget cuts. I've been looking for another position, but it's been hard. A nurse, David repeated, sounding impressed. That's important work. Lisa nodded but didn't say anything else. She was thinking about how they would manage if the car couldn't be fixed. How would she get to job interviews? How would they have anywhere safe to sleep? After breakfast, Maya discovered David's home library, which was bigger than most bookstores. She ran from shelf to shelf, looking at all the books with wide eyes. "Do you like to read?" David asked her. "Yes. But we had to leave most of our books when we moved," Maya said innocently. Lisa felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She hadn't told David the whole truth about their situation yet. David seemed to understand there was more to their story. "Maya, would you like to see something cool?" he asked. "I have a piano in the music room." Maya clapped her hands excitedly and followed David to another room where a beautiful grand piano sat near tall windows. David sat down and played a simple song that Maya recognized from a movie. She laughed and clapped, asking if she could try. David patiently showed her how to play a few simple notes. While Maya was distracted with the piano, David and Lisa found themselves alone in the kitchen. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," David said quietly. "But if you need help with more than just the car, I want you to know that's okay." Lisa looked at this stranger who was being so kind to them. She had been carrying the weight of their problems alone for so long that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to have someone offer to help. "We've been living in the car for 3 weeks, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "We got evicted from our apartment because I couldn't pay the rent after losing my job. I've been trying to find work, but it's hard when you don't have an address or reliable transportation." David listened without judging or making her feel ashamed. "Maya doesn't really understand how bad things are," Lisa continued. "I've been telling her it's like camping, but she's starting to ask questions. She wants to know when we're going home, and I don't know what to tell her." "What about family? Friends?" David asked gently. "My parents died in a car accident when Maya was a baby," Lisa said. "I don't have any brothers or sisters. Maya's father left when she was born. He said he wasn't ready to be a dad." She laughed bitterly. Turns out he was right. David felt angry at a man he had never met. How could anyone walk away from this beautiful little girl and her brave mother? "I have some money saved up," Lisa said quickly. "Not much, but something. I can pay you back for the food and for letting us stay here. It might take a while, but I will pay you back." "I don't want your money," David said firmly, "and I don't want you to worry about paying me back." Lisa looked confused. "Then why are you helping us? What do you want?" It was a fair question. David had been asking himself the same thing. Why? Did he care so much about these strangers? Why did seeing Maya smile make him happier than closing $1 million business deal? Honestly, "I don't know," David said. "Maybe because I remember what it felt like to be scared and not know where your next meal was coming from. Maybe because this house has felt empty for years, and having you both here makes it feel like a home." He paused and looked toward the music room where they could hear Maya attempting to play "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" on the piano. "Or maybe because that little girl deserves better than sleeping in a car, and you deserve help instead of having to carry everything alone." Lisa felt tears starting to form in her eyes. It had been so long since someone had been genuinely kind to her, without wanting something in return. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," David replied. "Just let me help. Stay here for a few days while we figure out the car situation and help you find a job. Maya seems happy here, and you both need time to rest and plan your next steps." Lisa wanted to say yes more than anything. The thought of Maya sleeping in a warm bed and eating regular meals was almost too good to hope for. But she was also scared. What if David wasn't as nice as he seemed? What if he expected something she couldn't give? "I don't know," she said hesitantly. Just then, Maya came running into the kitchen, her face bright with excitement. "Mom, David taught me how to play a real song. Can we stay so he can teach me more?" Lisa looked at her daughter's happy face and made a decision that would change all their lives. "Okay," she said. "We can stay for a few days." Over the next week, something magical started happening in David's house. For the first time in years, the big mansion felt alive with laughter and conversation. Maya had settled in like she belonged there, and Lisa was slowly starting to relax. David had called in some favors and found Lisa 3 job interviews at different hospitals in the area. He also had her car towed to his personal mechanic, who was working on fixing it for much less than the original estimate. "You don't have to do all this," Lisa kept saying, but David could tell she was grateful. "I want to," he always replied, and he meant it. Maya was thriving in the new environment. David had given her free access to his library, and she spent hours reading books that were much more advanced than what most 7-year-olds could handle. She was clearly very smart, and David enjoyed their conversations about the stories she was reading. In the evenings, David would teach Maya piano, while Lisa watched from the doorway. Seeing her daughter so happy and carefree made Lisa's heart full, but it also made her worried. What would happen when they had to leave? How could she explain to Maya that this wasn't their real life? One afternoon, while Maya was napping, David and Lisa were sitting in the garden, drinking coffee and talking. "Can I ask you something personal?" Lisa said. "Sure," David replied. "Why don't you have a family? I mean, you're successful, you're kind, you have this beautiful home. Why are you living here all alone?" David was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer. "I guess I've been so focused on building my business that I never made time for personal relationships," he said finally. "I dated people over the years, but nothing ever felt right. Nothing ever felt like it was worth changing my life for." "Do you regret it?" Lisa asked. "I used to think I didn't," David said honestly. "But having you and Maya here has made me realize how empty my life really was. I have everything I thought I wanted, but I was still lonely." Lisa understood that feeling. Even when she was married to Maya's father, she had felt alone. He had never really been present, even when he was physically there. "What about you?" David asked. "Do you ever think about dating again?" Lisa laughed, but not in a happy way. "When would I have time? And who would want to date a single mom who's basically homeless? I can barely take care of myself and Maya. I don't have anything to offer someone else." "I think you're selling yourself short," David said gently. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. You've been protecting Maya and keeping her happy even when your whole world was falling apart. That takes incredible strength and love." Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. It had been a long time since anyone had complimented her like that. Their conversation was interrupted by Maya running outside, holding one of David's books. "David." "I finished the book about the girl who could talk to animals. Do you have any more like it?" "I think I might," David said with a smile. "Let's go look." As they walked back toward the house, Maya slipped her small hand into David's large one, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lisa saw it happen and felt her heart skip a beat. Maya had never done that with anyone except her. That evening, after Maya was asleep, Lisa and David were cleaning up the kitchen together when David brought up something that had been on his mind. "I've been thinking," he said carefully. "What if you didn't have to leave right away? What if you stayed here longer, like a few months, while you get back on your feet?" Lisa stopped washing dishes and looked at him. "David, that's incredibly generous, but I can't let you do that. We've already imposed on you too much." "You're not imposing," David said. "I'm asking because I want you to stay. This house feels like a home with you both here, and Maya is so happy. She's like a different kid than the scared little girl I met a week ago." Lisa knew he was right about Maya. Her daughter was sleeping through the night for the first time in months, laughing every day, and learning new things constantly. But Lisa was scared about getting too comfortable, too attached to a life that couldn't last forever. "What happens when you get tired of having us around?" Lisa asked. "What happens when you meet someone you want to date, or when your friends ask questions about who we are?" "I don't care what my friends think," David said firmly. "And as for getting tired of you, Lisa, I look forward to coming home every day now. I never used to feel that way before." Lisa felt confused and overwhelmed. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. The thought of staying in this safe, warm place where Maya could be a normal kid was tempting beyond words. But another part of her was terrified of depending on someone else, especially someone who could change his mind at any time. "I need to think about it," she said finally. Of course, David said. Take all the time you need. But that night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about David's offer and what it might mean. Was he just being kind, or was there something more behind his invitation? And what about her own feelings? She had to admit that she was starting to care about David in a way that went beyond gratitude. She had noticed how gentle he was with Maya, how patient when she asked a million questions about everything. She had noticed how he listened when Lisa talked, really listened, like her thoughts and opinions mattered. She had noticed how safe she felt around him, how her constant anxiety had started to fade since they had been staying in his house. But she had also noticed how different their lives were. David's casual clothes probably cost more than Lisa used to make in a month. His house was worth more than she would earn in a lifetime. His fry. What place could she and Maya possibly have in that world? And what would happen to Maya's heart when reality eventually set in? The next morning, Lisa woke up to the sound of Maya giggling downstairs. When she went to the kitchen, she found David making pancakes again while Maya stood on a chair next to him helping to flip them. Mom, look, David is teaching me how to cook, Maya announced proudly. I can see that, Lisa said, smiling despite her worries. You're getting very good at it. As she watched David and Maya work together, Lisa realized something that made her decision for her. It wasn't just about what was best for her anymore. It was about what was best for Maya. And Maya had never been happier or more secure than she was right now. Maybe it was risky. Maybe it wouldn't last forever. But maybe Maya deserved the chance to feel safe and loved, even if it was only temporary. David, Lisa said quietly, if the offer is still open, we would like to stay a little longer. David's face lit up with a smile that made Lisa's heart flutter. The offer is definitely still open, he said. Maya cheered and hugged both of them, getting pancake batter on everyone's clothes. They all laughed, and Lisa felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope for the future. 3 months had passed since that snowy night when Lisa and Maya first knocked on David's door. Life had settled into a comfortable routine that felt almost too good to be true. Lisa had found a wonderful job at the children's hospital. Maya was enrolled in the local elementary school, and they had both grown closer to David than Lisa had ever imagined possible. Maya called David Uncle David now and had convinced him to read her a bedtime story every night. David had never been around children much, but he discovered he had a natural talent for making up voices for different characters, which made Maya giggle uncontrollably. Lisa had started contributing to the household expenses, despite David's protests. She cooked dinner most nights, helped maintain the garden, and made the big house feel warm and lived in. David found himself rushing home from work each day, excited to hear about Maya's adventures at school and to see Lisa's smile. But their peaceful bubble was about to burst. One Thursday afternoon, David got a call at his office. Sir, your mother is here to see you, his assistant said nervously. She says it's urgent. David's stomach dropped. His mother, Patricia Chen, was a force of nature who had very strong opinions about how David should live his life. She had been traveling in Europe for the past 6 months, which explained why she hadn't been around to interfere with his new living situation. Send her in, David said with a sigh. Patricia Chen walked into his office like she owned the place, which, considering how much money she had invested in his company years ago, she practically did. She was an elegant woman in her 70s, always perfectly dressed and never at a loss for words. David, darling, she said, kissing his cheek. We need to talk. Hello, Mother. How was your trip? David asked, trying to stay calm. Never mind. The trip, Patricia said, sitting down across from his desk. I hear you have some interesting house guests. David felt his jaw tighten. He had known this conversation would happen eventually, but he had hoped for more time. Where did you hear that? Mrs. Henderson from the country club saw you at the grocery store with a woman and a child, Patricia said. She said they looked very ordinary, like they didn't belong with you. Mrs. Henderson should mind her own business, David said coldly. Don't take that tone with me, Patricia snapped. I'm your mother and I'm concerned about you. Who are these people? What do they want from you? David stood up and walked to his office window, looking out at the city below. They're friends, Mother. Lisa is a nurse and Maya is her daughter. They needed help, so I helped them. Help? Patricia's voice got higher. David, you're one of the wealthiest men in this city. You can't just bring home stray people like they're lost puppies. They're obviously after your money. You don't know what you're talking about, David said, turning around to face her. Lisa has been trying to pay me rent since the day she started working. She's not after my money. Of course she's trying to pay you rent, Patricia said with a bitter laugh. That's how these people work. They act all independent and grateful while they sink their claws in deeper. Mark my words. Before long she'll be pregnant with your child and demanding half of everything you own. David felt anger rising in his chest. Lisa is not these people, Mother. She's a good person who is going through a difficult time. And Maya is a wonderful little girl who deserves better than your judgment. Listen to yourself, Patricia said, standing up. You're defending strangers over your own family. This woman has clearly manipulated you. She hasn't manipulated anyone, David said firmly. I invited them to stay because I wanted to help, and I asked them to stay longer because I care about them. Patricia studied her son's face carefully. She had seen that look before, years ago, when David was in college and dating someone she had disapproved of then too. Oh no, she said slowly. You're in love with her, aren't you? David didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. David, think about what you're doing, Patricia said, her voice getting softer, but more urgent. You have worked your entire life to build something important. You can't throw it all away for some single mother and her child. What about your reputation? What about the business? What about my happiness? David asked quietly. Happiness? Patricia scoffed. Happiness doesn't last. Success lasts. Money lasts. A good reputation lasts. This infatuation will fade, and then, where will you be? Their argument was interrupted by David's assistant knocking on the door. Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have the Peterson meeting in 10 minutes. Cancel it, David said. David, don't be ridiculous, Patricia said. The Peterson account is worth millions. Don't let this woman make you careless with your business. But David was already grabbing his keys. He had to get home. He had to see Lisa and Maya and remind himself what was really important. When David arrived home that evening, he found Lisa in the kitchen making Maya's lunch for school the next day. Maya was at the kitchen table doing homework, asking Lisa questions about her math problems. The scene was so peaceful and normal that David felt his anger at his mother fade into something sadder. This was what happiness looked like. This was what love looked like. How could his mother not see that? You're home early, Lisa said with a smile. Did you have a good day? David looked at her kind face and Maya's bright eyes, and he realized he had to tell them about his mother's visit. They deserved to know what was coming. Actually, I need to talk to you about something, David said seriously. Lisa immediately looked worried. What's wrong? My mother came to see me today, David said. She knows about you and Maya living here and she's not happy about it. Oh, Lisa said quietly, her face falling. I see. What did she say? Maya asked, looking confused. David knelt down next to Maya's chair. She thinks you and your mom should find your own place to live, he said gently. But why? Maya asked. We're happy here. You're happy too, right? I am very happy, David said firmly. Happier than I've ever been. Then why does your mom want us to leave? Maya asked. David struggled to find an answer that a 7-year-old would understand. Sometimes adults worry about things that don't really matter, he said finally. Later, that night after Maya was asleep, Lisa and David sat in the living room by the fireplace. Lisa had been quiet all evening, and David could tell she was thinking hard about something. Maybe your mother is right, Lisa said finally. Don't say that, David said quickly. David, we always knew this was temporary, Lisa said sadly. We've been living in a fantasy, but it's not real life. You have a business to run, a reputation to maintain. You have family and friends who expect certain things from you. I don't care what they expect, David said. But I do, Lisa said quietly. Maya is getting attached to you, to this house, to this life. What happens when reality sets in? What happens when you realize that dating a single mother with no money isn't as romantic as you thought it would be? Lisa, look at me, David said, taking her hands. I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to get tired of you or Maya. I love you both. It was the first time he had said the word love out loud, and it hung in the air between them. Love you too, Lisa whispered, tears starting to form in her eyes. But love isn't always enough. Before David could respond, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Maya appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. I can't sleep, she said. Are you guys fighting? No, sweetheart, Lisa said quickly. We're just talking. Maya climbed onto the couch between them and curled up against Lisa. David, are we going to have to leave? She asked in a small voice. David felt his heart break a little. What do you want, Maya? He asked. I want to stay here forever, Maya said simply. I want you to be my dad, and I want us to be a real family. Lisa closed her eyes, fighting back tears. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. David looked at both of them and made a decision that would change everything. Then that's what we'll do, he said firmly. We'll be a real family. The next few weeks were tense in David's house. His mother had started calling every day, sometimes multiple times, trying to convince him to come to his senses. She had even hired a private investigator to dig into Lisa's background, hoping to fin. She found out about Maya's father leaving, David told Lisa one evening. She thinks that proves you're the kind of person who makes poor choices. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. Maybe she's right, she said quietly. She's not right, David said firmly. Maya's father leaving says everything about him and nothing about you. But the constant pressure was wearing on all of them. Maya had started having nightmares about having to live in the car again. Lisa was stressed and worried about the damage this conflict might do to David's relationship with his mother. And David was struggling to focus on his business while dealing with family drama. Things came to a head one Saturday morning when Patricia showed up at the house unannounced. Lisa was in the garden with Maya, teaching her how to plant flowers. When they heard the doorbell ring, David answered the door and found his mother standing there with a stern expression and a large envelope in her hands. I'm coming in, Patricia announced, pushing past David into the house. Mother, you can't just show up here like this, David said. This is still my son's house, Patricia replied. And I have some things to show you. Through the window, Patricia could see Lisa and Maya in the garden. Maya was laughing as she got dirt all over her hands, and Lisa was smiling at her daughter's enthusiasm. She's pretty, Patricia admitted reluctantly, and the child seems sweet enough. But David, you have to think with your head, not your heart. She opened the envelope and pulled out several photographs and documents. I had someone look into her background. Did you know she was married before? Yes, I knew that, David said impatiently. Did you know her husband left her with over $50,000 in medical debt? Did you know she's been evicted from 3 different apartments in the past 5 years? Did you know she's been using different last names? David looked at the papers, feeling confused and hurt. These must be mistakes, he said. They're not mistakes, Patricia said triumphantly. She's been running from her debts for years. She probably targeted you specifically because she knew you had money. At that moment, Lisa and Maya came through the back door, both covered in dirt and giggling about something. When Lisa saw Patricia standing in the living room with papers spread out on the coffee table, her face went pale. What's going on? Lisa asked quietly. David's mother hired someone to investigate you, David said, his voice tight with anger. Lisa looked at the papers on the table and recognized copies of her credit reports, court documents from their eviction, proceedings, and photos that someone had clearly taken of her and Maya without their knowledge. I see, Lisa said, her voice very calm. Mom, what are all those papers? Maya asked, sensing the tension in the room. Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart, Lisa said gently. Why don't you go upstairs and wash your hands? After Maya left the room, Lisa looked directly at Patricia. I assume you want to know my side of the story? I think the documents speak for themselves, Patricia said coldly. The documents tell you what happened, but they don't tell you why, Lisa said. Yes, my husband left me with medical debt. He had cancer, and even with insurance, the treatments were expensive. I've been paying it off slowly, but nurse salaries don't go far when you're raising a child alone. She sat down on the couch, facing both David and his mother. Yes, we've been evicted before. Sometimes I had to choose between paying rent and buying Maya's medications when she had asthma attacks. I always chose Maya. And the different last names? Patricia asked. I went back to my maiden name after my husband left, Lisa explained. But some of the old accounts were still in my married name. I wasn't trying to hide anything, I was trying to survive. David felt ashamed that he had even for a moment doubted Lisa. He knew her well enough by now to know she was honest and hardworking. The idea that she had been manipulating him was ridiculous. Mother, I think you should leave, David said firmly. David, please, Patricia said, her voice getting desperate. I'm trying to protect you. Can't you see that this woman is going to ruin your life? The only person ruining my life right now is you, David said angrily. Lisa and Maya are the best things that have ever happened to me. They've made me happier than I've ever been. Happiness doesn't pay the bills, Patricia snapped. I have enough money to pay bills for the rest of my life, David replied. What I didn't have was love or family or any reason to come home at night. Lisa and Maya gave me all of that. Patricia looked at her son's face and realized she was losing this battle. Fine, she said, gathering up her papers. But when this all falls apart, don't come crying to me. After Patricia left, David and Lisa sat in silence for a long time. She's not entirely wrong, you know, Lisa said finally. What do you mean? David asked. I do have debt. I have made mistakes. Maya and I do come with complications that you never had to deal with before, Lisa said. Your life was simpler before we showed up. My life was empty before you showed up, David corrected her. But what about your business, your reputation, your relationship with your mother? Lisa asked. David took Lisa's hands and looked into her eyes. Lisa, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. Okay, Lisa said nervously. Do you love me? David asked. Yes, Lisa said without hesitation. Do you think Maya would be happy if I was her stepfather? David asked. Yes, Lisa said, tears starting to form. Do you think we could build a good life together, the three of us? David asked. Yes, Lisa whispered. Then marry me, David said simply. Lisa stared at him in shock. David, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life, David said. I love you, and I love Maya. I want us to be a real family, not just because it makes Maya happy, but because it makes me happy too. But your mother, Lisa started to say. My mother will come around eventually, David said, and if she doesn't, that's her choice. But I'm not going to let her fear control my life anymore. Lisa looked at this man who had saved them, who had given them hope when they had nothing, who loved her daughter like she was his own. She thought about all the reasons why it was scary to say yes, and all the reasons why it was even scarier to say no. Okay, she said finally. Yes. David's face broke into the biggest smile Lisa had ever seen. He picked her up and spun her around the living room, both of them laughing. Maya, David called up the stairs. Can you come down here? We have something to tell you. When Maya came running down the stairs, David got down on one knee in front of her. Maya, I just asked your mom to marry me and she said yes. How would you feel about me being your dad? Maya squealed with delight and threw her arms around David's neck. Really? For real? Forever? For real, forever, David promised. 1 year later, David and Lisa were married in the garden where Maya had planted her first flowers. Patricia had initially refused to come to the wedding, but she showed up at the last minute with tears in her eyes and an apology for Lisa. "I was wrong about you," she told Lisa quietly. "I haven't seen David this happy since he was a child. You and Maya have given him something I never could." Maya served as the flower girl and insisted on making a speech at the reception. "I used to wish for a dad every night before I went to sleep," she told the small gathering of friends and family. "I never thought my wish would come true, but it did, and now we're a real family forever." As Lisa and David danced to their first song as husband and wife, with Maya dancing around their feet, Lisa thought about how their lives had changed since that cold, rainy night when their car broke down. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places, and sometimes what looked like the end was really just the beginning. David had given them a home, but they had given him something even more valuable. They had given him a family and taught him that the most important kind of wealth couldn't be measured in money. It could only be measured in love.